Hi there everyone, it's Marc Laurenson here from Sydney Astrology School, and thanks for joining me as we enter into episode number 4 of the Neptune Through the Signs series. And in this episode, we're going to be looking at Neptune in the 9th house. So when you're thinking of the 9th house, classically it's actually called the house of long journeys over water. It's also the house of higher education, and in some more traditional texts, you might even hear it called the house of God. So when you're thinking about God, the house of God, you're thinking about a house that's looking for some kind of faith or some kind of belief system. And the 9th house is definitely about that. But the 9th house has got this kind of questy feeling about it. It's on a journey. It's on a journey. It's like a search to find some form of meaning in life. It's looking for its truth, and it's trying to expand. It's trying to expand its understanding, and wanting to know what's going on outside, on the other side of our horizon, so to speak. So when you're thinking about Neptune there, it's kind of interesting because the 9th house is a very overt house. It's a very house of identity's expression out there into the world. And Neptune is very different to that. Neptune is much more internal. And so when we're thinking about putting Neptune in the 9th house, we're actually thinking about more of an internal search. You know, people will talk about, I'm just soul searching at the moment. And so that's the picture I get when I see Neptune in the 9th house. I see people wanting to journey inwardly more than journey outwardly. It's more about being able to get your questions answered from the inner part of your soul or your intuition even. Now, the 9th house does love to get out into the world. And so the 9th house will want to travel and will want to learn. So if you're a 9th house Neptunian person, the travel that you would probably enjoy the most or get the most benefit from will be traveling to Machu Picchu or to the pyramids or some form of sacred site. You know, that kind of thing would really, really enhance your soul when you're going to different countries or foreign lands that really impinge on that part of who you are. If you're using it in your education world, in your area of learning, then the Neptune energy will probably go down an area of maybe some kind of spiritual learning or maybe holistic learning or learning in a way that's going to enhance how you can be of some kind of effect on a much more broader context, maybe to something to do on a philanthropic level or maybe a philosophical level. All those things might come in to the Neptune in the 9th house learning. Now, our laws are the 9th house. The 9th house are the laws, and traditionally it was the laws of God, but our principles are in the 9th house. What we truly believe in about ourselves and about life is in the 9th house. Our ethics are in the 9th house. So I always think that people with Neptune in the 9th house have to have some kind of philosophical framework that aligns with what their soul wants them to do. Now, people always ask me, I never understand what that means. What does it mean when you're talking about what your soul wants you to do? I'm just talking about what makes you feel good inside. What makes you feel good about yourself inside. And so therefore, if you are going into any areas of life, it has to be in alignment with what makes your soul smile, so to speak. So every day when you get up in the morning and get out of bed, there has to be a meaning behind that. The 9th house is about that. We have to understand, we have to know why we're on this planet. And every step we take has to be in alignment with our mission statement, so to speak. And so Neptune's mission statement will always be about love. It will always be about compassion. It will always be about kindness. It will always be a deep, deep understanding that we're all one. And to be able to live our lives in accordance with that will be huge for people with Neptune in the 9th house. Now, Neptune in the 9th house can be very creative. It can be very artistic, and possibly creative and artistic, in a way that could be quite inspiring. I mean, if they want to learn, it could actually go down that road. It could go down a road of something a little bit more fanciful. It could go down a road of people who actually want to do something out there in the world, probably in a, when I say glamorous sense, I'm not necessarily talking about the superficial, but I'm talking about taking people to another land, taking people to another world. That kind of thing is very Neptune in the 9th house as well. The 9th house is very positive. It's very optimistic. As I said, it's always looking for possibilities. And I always think that Neptune in the 9th house really opens the gates to all that kind of stuff. But you really have to be very, very conscious of listening to your inner selves, listening to your intuition, or listening to your gut. Because I honestly believe that if you listen to your gut and you follow what your inner voice is telling you, it will be taking you to places that are really going to change you. I want to say in such a positive way that it will lead you down roads that you never ever ever believed existed for you. And I want to say that this is kind of like the pot at the end of the rainbow kind of thing. I don't want to get too Disney about this, but at the same time, you could be holding back on a lot of really beautiful things that want to come into your life if you don't allow yourself to follow your heart or to follow your gut. Now, a warning around Neptune in the 9th house could be opening up too much to a belief system, or trying to find faith in something outside of yourself rather than listening to your inner self. So a lot of people with Neptune in the 9th house, I think, would have to be very careful of following gurus or following belief systems that other people have formed, organizations, that they feel in a way this is where they throw themselves hook, line, and sinker into it. The savior thing, this is my savior. I'm just going to follow this person or this particular religion wherever it takes me. And it doesn't have the boundary. It doesn't have the boundary there to be able to be discerning enough, to be able to know, where to draw the line. I always think that people with Neptune in the 9th house have to really, really come into their own religion. And when I say their own religion, I mean listen to what's going on inside of them, and what your inner voice and what you're feeling viscerally, because that in itself will be like your own guide. I don't really feel that you have to, you can join a religion, you can join, a particular philosophical organization, all those kind of things, but you would have to always be very, very conscious of how much of yourself and how much of your beliefs you're handing over to somebody else. Super, super important stuff. So Neptune in the 9th house, as I said, needs to have a reason for being alive, and a deeply spiritual reason for being alive. You know how sometimes if you walked up to somebody in the street and asked them, why they're on the planet. What's the meaning of life? They would actually be looking at you as if you were speaking a different language. It's kind of like, I've got a wife and 3 kids, I'm just trying to make ends meet. I've got a mortgage, that's what it is for me. But I think that Neptune in the 9th house really, really has to actually kind of see the big picture that's going on apart from that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? It has to understand things on a much, much more holistic level. It has to really come into a place of recognizing the two worlds. It's almost like I'm here on the planet and I do have to go through everyday kind of material, concrete events on the planet in this land of form, but I still have to keep myself, I want to say, to keep myself going and to keep myself positive and to keep myself optimistic. It's a feeling now that I'm doing this on a deep kind of soul learning level. Every step of the way is going towards that. And I want to actually say that if you've got Neptune in the 9th house, then your need to build your life to have a philosophical kind of foundation based on love and based on kindness is what you are all about. So if you don't have that feeling of my mission here on the planet has to have that as its crust, it's always going to feel a little bit like you're trying to grab at straws. It's always going to feel like this feeling of I'm not quite sure why I'm here, and it's always going to feel a little bit elusive for you. It's always going to feel a little bit like you're never going to get your needs met. It's always going to feel like often I'll throw all my eggs in this basket, and it can be quite disappointing. So if it becomes something about you that you're willing to give through what you truly believe you're on the planet to do, and if you can extend that feeling of compassion, that feeling of love and kindness in your life, then your Neptune in the 9th house is going to work for you beautifully.